Hi, I'm Tina Whalen, Dean of the College of Allied Health Sciences at the University of Cincinnati, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the PRaISE Kickoff Celebration. This evening, we are kicking off the 23rd annual presentation of research and innovative and scholarly endeavors for the College of Allied Health Sciences. The research conference will take place tomorrow, but tonight we are here to celebrate excellence in the college through our 2021 Distinguished Alumni honorees and featured student presentations. During the event, we encourage you to congratulate our honorees and students by using the chat located under the live stream window. Click the three dots located in the top right-hand corner and select pop out to see the full chat. Feel free to ask questions as well, and we will follow up with you individually after the event. I would like to thank Provost Christy Nelson for being here this evening, and I would like to thank her for her great service to the University of Cincinnati. Christy will be retiring at the end of June this year after many, many years of service, most recently as the university's provost. I know I will miss her, and her support of our college has been amazing. So thank you, Christy. And thank you to the Interdisciplinary Research Committee and support staff who put together our virtual kickoff celebration and PRaISE conference. I'd like to thank Melinda Butch-Kovacic, our Associate Dean of Research, Michelle Chayette, Valerie Hill, Amy Hoback, Jeanette Kelly, Susan Katowski, Caitlin Mullins, Aaron Rumke, and Bree Coggins. As far as what's up with the college, we have really had a pretty stellar year, despite what I call the COVID interruption. Last year at this time, or a little before this time, we got an additional 55% of our classes online, and we continued on getting our students through their courses and out to clinic and out the door in graduation. In 2020, through the spring semester, summer, and fall semesters, we graduated 1,054 students. And in a very few short weeks, we will be graduating an additional 546 students. We returned almost 800 students to clinical rotations, starting as soon as May of 2020, after about a couple months, 8-week interruption due to the COVID shutdown. So we've moved on. Our retention rates for our first year students at the undergraduate level is 91%. Our enrollment has been up despite the fact that we were in this COVID interruption and COVID shutdown. And our research expenditures currently are at over $3.71 million. So the college is on the move. We're doing great things. I think you'll see tonight that we have amazing distinguished alumni and many, many students who are here to present their interesting scholarly activities and works. And I couldn't be prouder of the success that the college is enjoying, and I look forward to this evening's events. So I'm going to, at this time, we're going to start our presentation of our distinguished alumni honorees, and I have the pleasure of being able to introduce them. Our first honoree is Tanya Bates. Tanya is a pioneering healthcare management professional with a vision to help organizations prepare for a future of value-based care and an enhanced focus on quality. For 21 years, Tanya's career performance has improved operational and financial performance in a variety of healthcare settings through executive management and academic capacities on local and national levels. Currently, the compliance manager for Enjoin, her expertise has benefited several organizations with her oversight of revenue cycle operations, health information management departments, electronic health record applications and migrations, documentation integrity, healthcare compliance, quality metrics, performance improvement, release of information, and health information management technology education. Whew, that's a lot. She graduated from the Health Information Management program at our College of Allied Health Sciences in 2011, and then became board certified or as a registered health information administrator. She also holds degrees from Case Western University and Cuyahoga Community College. Tanya has served as president of the Northeast Ohio Health Information Management Association for 12 years, and also serves on the executive board for her state association, the Ohio Health Information Management Association. I am very proud to present to you our distinguished alumni on behalf of the Department of Clinical and Health Information Sciences, Tanya Bates.
Dean Whalen, thank you very much for the introduction. It is with great honor, pride, and respect that I accept this Distinguished Alumni Award. I would like to thank the faculty and staff who were instrumental in my success here at the University of Cincinnati. I extend a very special thank you to Dr. Pamela Greenstone Childers for nominating me for this honor, and also to the selection committee for deeming me worthy. To my fellow Bearcats, I encourage you to strive for excellence. Never settle for anything less. Be aware of your worth and value. Don't be afraid to step out on faith to make life, career, and educational changes in pursuit of your happiness. Change can be scary, but embrace it. It's never too late. Don't forget to give back. Volunteer in your community, join and participate in your professional organizations, be a mentor. You never know the impact that you can have on someone else. I leave you with a quote from one of my favorite authors, Dr. Maya Angelou. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Simply put, be the author and finisher of your fate. Tell your story. Don't give anyone else that much power over you. I want to thank the University of Cincinnati, and good luck to all of you Bearcats.
Thank you, Tanya, for a very nice speech and a well-deserved award. And I think I see your vase there behind you. Is that your award? Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our second distinguished alumni is Lauren Bland. Lauren is an esteemed educator and mentor in the field of communication sciences and disorders. Before taking on her current role of associate professor and speech language pathology graduate program director at Western Kentucky University, she served as the interim associate dean for the College of Health and Human Services and the interim department head for communication sciences and disorders. Before her time with WKU began in 2004, she held faculty positions at the University of Louisville and Jackson State University. Her passion for mentorship and professional clinical services have benefited students for over 30 years. Through her service as an instructor and clinical supervisor, teaching courses in augmentative communication, professional issues, speech sound disorders, counseling, diagnostics, school services, and fluency. Dr. Bland earned her bachelor's degree from Murray State University, her master's degree from the University of Louisville, and her PhD from the University of Cincinnati, all in communication sciences and disorders. She is active in professional organizations, including the American Speech Language Hearing Association and the Council on Academic Accreditation in Audiology and Speech Language Pathology. I am very proud to present Lauren Bland with the Distinguished Alumni Award on behalf of the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. Lauren could not be with us live tonight. I believe she's actually teaching a class as we speak, but she has remarks to share.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this recognition. It is so strange to be getting any type of honor for doing something that you absolutely love to do. I'm not with you in person tonight because I'm teaching. I'm teaching a class in speech sound disorders. And if you know anything about Dr. Nancy Craighead, you know that that's an important part of her career. So obviously, a lot of what I'm teaching now will be what I gained from her. So while I am getting this recognition and saying thank you, it's me who needs to say thank you. I have to thank the the University of Cincinnati. I'm thanking the College of Allied Health Sciences, and certainly the people who were there while I was there, Dr. Craighead, Dr. Kretschmer, and so many others who are in my teaching now, whether it is textbooks, articles, or just simply perspectives that I'm able to help share with new students and new speech language pathologists. I am so grateful for this recognition. I hope that in everything I do, I make the university, the college, and the department proud. Thank you again.
Oh, you're muted.
Goodness, so sorry. I'm going to start again. I was muted. Our next distinguished alumni is Robyn McHugh. Robyn is a servant leader who provides unparalleled care for patients and families. After earning her master's degree in physical therapy from UC, she began her career at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center in 2005, where she is currently a physical therapist in the Division of Occupational Therapy and Physical Therapy of the Sports Medicine Biodynamics Center. She is also the Liberty Campus Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Clinic Site Lead and Team Lead for the Career Development Program. Additionally, Dr. McHugh serves as the Orthopedic Physical Therapy Residency Director and leads the Spine Curriculum and Leadership Module. As a dedicated researcher, Dr. McHugh has worked on over 40 presentations and abstracts since 2011, offering resources around topics including biomechanics, lower back pain, residency education, motivational interviewing, and self-efficacy in children and adolescents. She received rave reviews at the 2017 APPTAC annual conference for her lecture on treatment progression for adolescent low back pain. And she was a presenter at the CCHMC 2018 Spine Symposium. I am proud to present Robyn McHugh with the Distinguished Alumni Award on behalf of the Department of Rehabilitation, Exercise, and Nutritional Sciences.
Thanks, Tina. I'm just so humbled. It really seems like just yesterday when I was getting my poster ready for the PRaISE conference myself. I remember that it was one of the first times I presented as an official PT student. I was so nervous and excited and just unsure. And now here I am in front of all of you with these other lovely ladies who are way more brilliant and accomplished and impressive than anything that I've done. And I wonder how I even ended up here to deserve this. And I just can't thank Tina and the College of Allied Health for this award. So as I was thinking about today, I thought I'd like to share a couple of my favorite quotes to describe my journey a little bit. First, I want to start with one of my favorites. 100 years from now, it will not matter what was in my bank account or what sort of house I lived in, what kind of car I drove, but the world may be different because I was important in the life of a child. And this quote hits home to me for so many reasons. It speaks to my whole life, really, both personally and professionally. So I've been a PT at Children's Hospital, like Tina said, in the sports ortho department for 16 years. My last clinical was actually here and I've never left. So kids are kind of my jam. I love them. I love everything about them, their spirit, their joy, their curiosity, their adaptability, and even their feistiness. And then my home life, just to give you a little glimpse of that also, a little bit before this time last year, I found out that I was actually pregnant with triplets. So during a pandemic, finding out I was pregnant with triplets, this quote totally bring me back down to the ground and reminds me how influential my roles are with all the kids that are in my life. So that brings me to my next quote about following your passion. Love what you do and do what you love. So when I'm at work, when I'm at home, it's my passion for kids that really helps empower me on the easy days and on the wild and crazy days. Next, mentoring. Mentoring is also a significant part of my personal and professional life. So another quote that I love from Oprah Winfrey said, mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. So in my life, along the path of my career, there have been a few really special people who influenced me and made a lasting impact on my life. And at the same time, one of my favorite parts of my life is mentoring others. I love to see the potential in people and watch them grow over time. Of course, it applies to my patients, but also our residents. So as the residency director, it's been amazing to watch the residency grads over their residency year and even beyond. It's truly inspirational. And now with my own kids, watching them develop and sprout into their own little people. And these are the parts of my life I think I'm most proud of. So my advice around mentoring is to find one and to be one. And finally, I want to wrap up and mention gratitude. I believe that gratitude is not, I believe that it's not happiness that brings us gratitude. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. And my last quote is, gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, routine jobs into joy, and ordinary opportunities into blessings. So being grateful is quite possibly what keeps me the most grounded and mindful, and is so empowering to appreciate all the steps along the way, the big steps, the small steps, the steps we're excited for, and even the steps that I'm not so excited for. And these steps are what have shaped me for who I am. So I have so much to be thankful for, and all the people have made an impact in my career and in my life. But too many to list, but of course, I'm so thankful for my time at UC and my family and my coaches and mentors and colleagues along the way. So thank you so much for this award. It means so much to me. Cheers.
Thank you, Robyn. I didn't know about the triplets. How amazing is that? Are they girls, boys? In
2 boys and 1 girl.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, congratulations on that. And it's
Thank
nice
you.
that you're still smiling and all is going so well, and well-deserved. Congratulations for this award.
Thank you, Tina.
I remember Robyn when she was a young student. So that, how could it be long ago?
Not that long ago.
Our last distinguished alumni winner for our college, we only have 4 units, so each unit has an awardee, is Karen Rumsey. So she's last but not least. Karen is a respected community advocate who cares deeply for victims and witnesses of violence. She currently serves as a health programs manager, witness advocacy for the City of Cincinnati Police Department, where she acts as a liaison between investigating detectives and surviving families, as well as witnesses of crimes. She began her social work career working at Hamilton County Children's Services as a case aide and worked her way up to become a child protective case worker. She completed her MSW internship with the Cincinnati Police Department Victims Assistance Program and was hired as a grant paid advocate in 2014, and then assumed her current role of director in 2017. Under her leadership, the department has developed the Victims Assistance Liaison Unit, the award-winning Homicide Survivors Youth Initiative, and the Cincinnati Citizens Respect Our Witnesses Program, a community venture to address violence and promote engagement while intervening in cycles of violence. Since earning her master's degree in social work from UC in 2010, she has been an invaluable community partner while giving back to her alma mater by serving as a field instructor for the MSW program. And I'm proud and honored to present Karen Rumsey with the Distinguished Alumni Award on behalf of the School of Social Work.
Greetings. I would like to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. I really have so much gratitude for the University of Cincinnati, the College of Allied Health Sciences, specifically the School of Social Work. I'm so honored to have been presented the Distinguished Alumni Award. I'm grateful for everyone who has poured into my life to allow me to get to this point where I am today. Specifically my family and my colleagues, most importantly, past professors who always encouraged me to do my best and to give back. One of the things that I would like to really emphasize tonight is that as social workers, we are a profession. We are a field that is highly needed, especially through what we've just gone through in COVID, but also just to to be here for the everyday person that we encounter and we meet. We are a professional field, and we will continue to grow and to be a professional field as the University of Cincinnati continues to pour into its current students and those that will come farther in the future. So I would like to, again, just say thank you for this honor tonight, and to also leave you with what is my favorite quote. It's my saying for my students, the interns that I so graciously get to mentor during their program time with me. And that is finish strong. It is so important that no matter what it is that you're doing in life, that you have it be your passion, that you just nurture it. And no matter what it is that you want to do in your life, finish strong. So again, I thank you for this distinguished award. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Karen, Robyn, Tanya, and Lauren. And thank you also. Many of you are either supervisors or field service people or supervisors of internships for our students. So we can't thank you enough for paying it forward and helping to educate the next generation and sharing all of your knowledge and experience with them. That's really what makes allied health, I think, such a special place. We just keep it moving forward and paying it forward. We're now going to change roles a little bit here in terms of our time together, and I'm going to now introduce our incredible work of our students that's being done. Robyn mentioned that she remembers presenting her paper or her poster at PRaISE some years ago. And this is our 23rd year of PRaISE. And so I'm so pleased that we're able to keep it going, even though we're all virtual. And we hope next year to be back together to do this in person, but we're so happy to have this virtual opportunity. So we're going to have student presentations, either individual or group presentations from across the 4 units of our college. And I'm going to introduce the first student, and it's actually a single student who's going to talk to us from the Clinical Health and Information Services Department, and her name is Lizzie Verquer, and she is going to talk to us about cardiotoxicity of chemotherapy and the role of medical imaging. So Lizzie, oh, I'm sorry, her advisors are Barry Southers, Whitney Bowen, and Alan Besby. So Whitney, take it away.
Good evening, my name is Lizzie. My presentation for tonight, and that I will also be sharing at the PRaISE event tomorrow, is titled Cardiotoxicity of Chemotherapy and the Role of Medical Imaging. On my poster here, I started just with some background knowledge. Chemotherapy is a pretty widely used option for treating various types of cancer, and there are many side effects that stem from chemotherapy use. Some commonly known complications are hair loss, fatigue, and weakened immune system. However, below the surface, chemotherapeutic drugs can cause effects that cannot always be seen or even detected. These effects could be things like kidney damage, or what I've focused on for this presentation, cardiac complications. Common chemotherapy drugs that have shown to cause cardiac complications are mitoxantrone, anthracycline, and trastuzumab. To define cardiotoxicity, it is simply toxicity that affects the heart. Toxicity in the heart can be determined by a decline in measurement of the left ventricular ejection fraction. Left ventricular ejection fraction is the central measure of left ventricular systolic function. Left ventricular ejection fraction can be calculated by dividing stroke volume by end diastolic volume and multiplying by 100 for a percentage. The purpose of the research was to explore how medical imaging can be used to detect and manage cardiac complications. Cardiotoxicity is a restricting concern when using chemotherapy dosing and usage. Medical imaging can provide useful information to determine further and ongoing treatment options. Medical imaging can play multiple roles in oncologic treatment, from diagnosing to identifying remission. Medical imaging can monitor cancer progression, monitor how well treatment is working, and also aid in detecting adverse complications such as cardiotoxicity. While reviewing literature on this topic, I focused on research including following imaging modalities: nuclear medicine, magnetic resonance imaging, and echocardiography. Within the modality of nuclear medicine, the MUGA, or multi-gated acquisition study, was best recommended for calculating left ventricular ejection fraction. This modality is shown in figure 1 above. There's a region of interest drawn along the left ventricle, so you can kind of make out the heart in that picture. This exam requires the administration of a radioactive isotope that is tagged to a patient's red blood cells and then acquired images of the heart in multiple planes. Images with this modality can be obtained in both SPECT and planar views. Cardiac MRI is favored for its ability to measure ventricular volumes and function. MRI also produces tissue characterization. MRI studies provide comprehensive information of the heart and can differentiate between all chambers of the heart, so both right and left ventricular volumes can be measured. The images acquired by MRI acquisitions are highly accurate and precise, so this allows for the detection of even subtle changes, which can lead to early detection of cardiotoxicity. Images of cardiac MRI can be seen in figure 3 with the multiple chamber views of the heart. Echocardiography is a commonly used tool for monitoring heart conditions. This modality uses sound waves to acquire ultrasound images of the heart. Echocardiogram images can be measured either 1D, 2D, or 3D, also known as linear area or volume measurements. 3D methods are best recommended for measuring left ventricular ejection fraction. This modality may be favored as images can be acquired in around 20 minutes or even less. This modality is shown in figure 2. Each modality has respective limitations. Modality of choice is going to be more on a patient-by-patient basis, as one size doesn't fit all. To touch on a few limitations and considerations of these modalities, nuclear medicine's use of ionizing radiation raises concerns for repeated exposure. There are exposure limits, so you're going to want to be careful with how much a patient receives of this ionizing radiation. Cardiac MRI can be a lengthy acquisition unsuitable for claustrophobic patients. It's a small tube with a lot of loud banging noises, and a lot of patients are unable to go through with the scan. This study requires breath holds during sequences, so using sedation techniques to offset claustrophobia may affect the quality of images due to motion from the patient breathing. With echocardiography, it lacks high reproducibility and has variability between imaging techniques from technologist to technologist. From this research, I was able to draw some conclusions about medical imaging's role in detecting and monitoring cardiotoxicity. The best method is to use a baseline study either right before the first chemotherapy use or right at the start of treatment. The same modality should then be used throughout treatment as follow-up studies to monitor the cardiac conditions. Once a scan has detected a decline in left ventricular ejection fraction, alterations can be made to the treatment plan to prevent further damage. Overall, medical imaging could be implemented into chemotherapy treatments as a useful tool to monitor cardiac conditions and detect cardiotoxicity before too much damage has been done. Thank you all for your time this evening. I look forward to the PRaISE event tomorrow with everyone. It's been a pleasure to be able to share my work with you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Lizzie. The second student presentation is from our Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders, entitled "I'm Not Like Your Other Patients: A Young Stroke Survivor's Perspective on the Rehabilitation Process," and it is presented by social work student Carly Nunn and Communication Sciences and Disorders students Nicole Senke, Amanda Del Aria, and Adriana Borst. The project was advised by faculty member Amy Dietz. I'm not like your other patients. Take it away, ladies.
Good evening. So I'll jump right in. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So of the 795,000 people who will have a stroke in the US this year, only 10% are going to fall between the ages of 18 and 50. When I say the term stroke survivor, I'm sure Carly Nunn here is not the first picture of what comes to your mind. The typical survivor we see in the rehab system is age 50 plus, might have grown children, and is retired or approaching retirement, while our young patients are often at the peak of career building, education, navigating relationships, and raising young families. So we all know that each patient is unique and that care should be individualized, but we often look to what we already know to inform our practice. However, we must do the extra work to best treat this unique population, and we must be prepared to throw our typical plans out the window in response to their unique needs. Disclaimer, nobody would ever argue that the treatment of older adults is not worthy and challenging in itself, but we must be prepared to use extra energy when working with a rare population, just like we would do extra research to prepare for a patient with a rare condition. So you can proceed to the next slide. So our aim is to publish an opinion piece in the American Journal of Speech Language Pathology to reach SLPs and related professionals, and to spur increased discussion and better treatment of survivors at every age and every stage. In Carly, we have a first-person perspective to inform us as we move forward, and we're so excited to share her story. So without further ado, here's Carly Nunn, and you can proceed to the next slide.
Thank you, Amanda. Like she said, I'm Carly, and on November 13th, 2018, at age 21, I survived a ruptured brain aneurysm within an arteriovenous malformation, or an AVM, and a stroke. In my case, an arteriovenous malformation is an abnormal tangle of blood vessels and veins in the brain. I was admitted to the neuroscience ICU for almost 2 weeks and underwent a craniotomy to remove the AVM. Due to this event, I lost all mobility on the right side of my body, and I could not speak, walk, read, or recognize numbers or letters. I wanted my healthcare professionals to know that I was a fully functioning and independent student, and that was all taken away from me in an instant. My mind was not constantly thinking that I just had a stroke. All that I could think of was that my goal of graduating college in May of 2019 vanished, paired with the fact that I could not communicate my sadness. I needed empathy and compassion, and I felt as if I needed more understanding. While in rehabilitation, I was diagnosed with aphasia and apraxia. From my experience, I would describe aphasia as being able to understand what another individual is saying, but my communication back would be jumbled. I was given a communication board which had very general pictures like telephone, toilet, pain, family, and so on. I was very frustrated and angry as to how limited this was. I wanted my uncle to come as he had a stroke in the past. I pointed to family, and the therapist responded, "Well, what about your family? Your mom and dad are here." Even early on, the words I could formulate would still come out wrong. Imagine how frustrating it would be to not be able to speak, or finally when you do, you say the wrong name or word. Imagine knowing the name and who Max is, but you constantly say Jeff. Along with aphasia, I experienced apraxia, which is the inability to control muscles to form words. Aphasia also meant that I would write numbers or letters backwards. When I was trying to celebrate my brother's 30th birthday, I typed the 3 up wrong, like you can see on your screen, and never noticed until the end of the night. For myself, I always allowed the humor of the situation. You can go to the next slide. While attending outpatient speech therapy, my speech therapist was instrumental in assisting me welcoming a new normal, as well as allowing me to start grieving my old life. By productively working through each stage until acceptance was very insightful for myself and greatly helped my mental health. Developing depression or anxiety after a stroke is very likely, and having someone to walk you through the stages of who you once were, who you are now, and who you can be by setting goals is very beneficial. Working with my speech therapist, my goals were to be able to regain the mental functioning to as close as it once was at a college reading and writing level, as well as to return to college. My speech therapist was very cognizant that I was at such a very important life stage as I was preparing for my career, navigating relationships, and in a stage of independence. In January of 2020, almost 2 years after my stroke, I returned to the University of Cincinnati to finish my degree in social work and graduated in December of 2020. From my unique experience of overcoming a stroke at such a young age, my next goal is dedicating my career to educating the public advocating for this population and raising more awareness that a stroke can happen to anyone just like me. I am eternally grateful for the assistance and support of my speech therapist. However, throughout my recovery, I experienced a great amount of frustration, which impacted my mental health and motivation. With more attention towards a stroke survivor's life stage, mental health resources, and goals, I believe the rehabilitation process can be improved to allow better outcomes in stroke survivors. You can go to the next slide.
My peers and I feel so grateful to have the opportunity to meet Carly and work with her in order to support her as she shares her story. So for this project, we've paired Carly's testament of her experience, like you've heard, with my peers and I's review of the literature. So our review of the literature delves into relevant rehabilitation topics such as quality of life, mental health, and return to work concerns that are common in young stroke survivors. We want to express that while these topics are absolutely relevant to all stroke survivors across the lifespan, they are absolutely paramount to the needs of young survivors, as they will likely need to learn and know how to utilize the skills established in the rehabilitation process throughout various phases of their lives to come. In addition to Carly's experience and our review of the literature, we have also chosen to implement a framework for this project. This framework is based from Erickson's stages of psychosocial development. Through Carly sharing her story, she reflects on specific needs that she felt were not adequately addressed throughout the rehabilitation process that are absolutely vital to the recovery of a young survivor like herself. These needs primarily fell into two categories. They were socio-emotional and vocational factors. So when looking into important socio-emotional factors of rehabilitation, we found that aspects such as building relationships, communicating emotional needs, and navigating mental health through life stages are all important factors based on Erickson. To parallel this, Carly has expressed that socio-emotional experiences of her rehabilitation journey, such as mourning her pre-stroke life that she discussed, communicating effectively with individuals in her life, whether it be loved ones or professionals, learning how to navigate her mental health as a result of her stroke, and practicing self-advocacy skills when needed have all been vital throughout her journey.
Research and Carly's experience demonstrate that young survivors often do not feel that health professionals understand their everyday needs, problems, and goals. Therefore, survivors do not feel actively involved in their own treatment and may not understand the purpose and relevance of specific activities for their life. We can't assume we know their needs and goals, and we definitely can't assume they're the same as the older population that we typically see. Therefore, we must collaborate with patients when considering therapy goals and treatment focus. Research has reported that successful return to work factors are highly individualized, suggesting that treatment must also be highly individualized, and even more so in this unique population. We expect that their goals will be dramatically different from typical stroke patients due to the different stage of life, and specifically the different Erickson stage they are in. Older individuals are retired or nearing retirement. Therefore, return to work factors are not typically considered in treatment. Typical stroke treatment prioritizes communicating with loved ones and returning to the highest level of independence with daily tasks. While this plan should still be considered in a young survivor's rehabilitation, it is only the beginning of their journey. Treatment must go beyond basic skills and consider the long-term goals of the patient as related to their Erickson stage, which may include things such as returning to school, returning to work, getting married, and raising a family. Motivators behind personal goals will likely be related to their Erickson stage as well. Next slide, please.
If you could take away anything from this presentation today, I would want you to understand the importance of realizing where a survivor is in their life at a time of their stroke, to empathize and to allow goals to form in productive ways to allow the survivor to return close to where they once were. I would like to leave you with this quote: "Start thinking wellness, not illness, because we young survivors have a long life to live." I would like to thank you for your time listening, and I'm so grateful for my team to being able to present this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Carly, for sharing your story with all of us, and to the students in CSD for doing this work for all of us. I think one thing we know in rehabilitation is our patients are our best teachers. We need to listen to their needs and individualize our treatment plans accordingly. So thank you so much. I think it's really wonderful that you are a social worker and also a graduate from our college. And I'm so proud that you were able to get back to school and graduate, not only after everything you've been through, but in this COVID interruption on top of everything else. What a crazy, crazy time. So congratulations to all of you. Great work. And thank you again, Carly, for sharing your story with all of us.
Thank you.
Our third group of student presenters is from the Department of Rehabilitation, Exercise, and Nutritional Sciences, and their topic is entitled "Establishing Your Student-Led Pro Bono Physical Therapy Clinic," which I know they're anxious to do, "A Systematic Approach to Drive Success." And the program is going to be presented by PT students Jackie Sido, Carly Jackson, Thomas Marusco, and Jamie Vanderwerker. The project was advised by Shelley Engelhardt and Rebecca Lugers and Rebecca Rabitsky. So establishing your student-led pro bono physical therapy clinic, and take it away, guys.
Okay, thank you, Dean Whalen. We are a group of third-year physical therapy students here at UC, and our project is going to be focused on creating a student-led pro bono physical therapy clinic here at UC. But we also felt that we created this approach that can be utilized by other programs. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background and purpose on our research. We found that student-led pro bono physical therapy clinics have a lot of benefits. It improves the access of community members to these important physical therapy services, as well as educates the next generation of physical therapists. And we were specifically looking at educating these PTs on competency, character, leadership, and social responsibility. Previous research confirmed the importance of taking this step-by-step approach when determining kind of what your clinic is going to look like in order for it to be as successful as possible. And so the purpose of our project was to develop this formulaic approach, step-by-step approach, to really determine what the ideal model, what the ideal clinic would look like at UC, and then hopefully this approach can be utilized by other DPT programs in the future to create their own clinics. We will also be kind of sharing specific results that we found here at the University of Cincinnati. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through kind of the methods. This really is our approach. We'll kind of explain specifically what we did, but feeling that these steps can be taken by any other DPT program to kind of get to the same kind of end result. We initially reviewed the data of the group before us. They were looking typically at the feasibility of a PT clinic and if there's a need in the community. They determined there was, so we were able to go forward with our research. We did a review of the literature just to determine kind of what different models, what different examples of clinics are out there, and kind of what aspects or what elements are important for a successful clinic. And we'll kind of talk about what elements we found in that literature review next. The development of potential models, we kind of organized that literature review to determine a few different models that we think might possibly work at the University of Cincinnati. And then we conducted phone interviews with a lot of well-established student-led pro bono clinics. Most of them were physical therapy related, but a few of them were run by medical students. And we were really just interested in seeing what works, what struggles they had, and what ways they overcome these struggles. And we really used that to determine different unanimous themes throughout. Next slide, please.
Okay, so here we have the 10 elements that we decided were sort of the key fundamental elements of any successful pro bono clinic. So we have location, transportation, leadership, clientele, supervision, resources and equipment, curriculum integration, scheduling, and hours of operation. So 9 elements, I'm sorry. These 9 elements are the sort of the fundamental building blocks of any successful pro bono clinic based on our phone interviews. Next slide, please. So using those elements, we created 3 ideal models. So the 3 ones we have here are off-campus location with a community partner, on-campus student-led, and curriculum-based, so integrated into the rehabilitation curriculum. Each of these models has pros and cons, addressing those 9 elements on the previous slide. So the intention here was to create 3 most ideal models and then sort of vet those models against the faculty and the students to decide what would be the most ideal model. Next slide, please. So these are the last 10 steps of our process. We determine the ideal model from those 3 prospective models, orchestrated individual surveys, both to the students, faculty, and local residents to support the ideal model. We collected the data from those surveys and analyzed it. That data validated our ideal model, and then using that information, we were able to develop a vision and mission statement that correlated with the ideal model we established. Next slide, please.
So this goes along with the 6th step where we surveyed different parties in our programs. So we had the first year PT students, we gathered 24 responses from them. We had 30 of the second year PT students, which was our class because we were doing this as second year students. And then we had 13 third year PT students respond. We had 10 PT faculty members that gave their input. And then we were able to send the survey to a few different residents. So we had 5 respond to that, the local PT residents. You can go to the next slide. And so this kind of just breaks down more specifically the ideal model that we determined that works well for the University of Cincinnati. This is, again, something that other programs would be able to kind of do on their own and figure out what their ideal model is for their specific program, considering the 9 essential elements. So the ideal model that we determined, which again was pre-COVID, so it has kind of adjusted a little bit, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But the ideal model that our group determined, the location was off campus with a community partner within a 20-minute radius of campus. Transportation, we were hoping to find a place where free parking was available for involved members with a public bus line nearby for possible patients that might be coming. Leadership, we determined that a student board with a faculty advisor would be the best option with 3rd year clinical instructor roles, so that our 3rd year PT students could get some experience being kind of like a CI. Clientele, we were hoping to target underinsured patients with mostly musculoskeletal conditions, with supervision from our faculty of our program, with the residents, and then other volunteer physical therapists in the Cincinnati area. We were hoping to obtain supplies through student fundraising and donors, community partners for our initial start. Ideally, we would have an online documentation system. And then we were hoping this is something that would be integrated into the physical therapy curriculum, initially as a course with an associated course number. Scheduling, we determined that walk-in appointments would be the best fit for us during our initial operation. And then we determined that Saturdays would be the best time for our clinic to be open. So you can go to the next slide. And then for our step 10 of our methods section, we determined a vision statement and mission statement for our clinic. So our vision was to transform our community through service, leadership, and excellence. And then we determined our mission statement to be The mission for the student-run pro bono clinic is to simultaneously improve healthcare access to physical therapy services by providing pro bono physical therapy services to community members while educating a new generation of physical therapists in the areas of competency, character, leadership, and social responsibility. Next slide, please.
So our foundational research identified that there were 9 integral elements to consider when implementing a successful pro bono clinic. Those elements were listed earlier, but as a reminder, they're the location, transportation, leadership, clientele, supervision, resources and equipment, curriculum integration, scheduling, and hours of operation. And once those elements were decided, we did prospective models where we could contrast them against others in the parties and stakeholders through surveys and phone interviews and identify a single ideal model. With continued research, we hope to prove success of this model, but further research in this area will empower the next generation of physical therapists to develop competency, character, leadership, and social responsibility while simultaneously bridging the healthcare gap and advocating for the profession. Next slide. So the next group of PT students took over and they dealt with the COVID pandemic, and they are still working on finalizing a location, and that will either be with a community partner or in the health sciences building on UC's campus. Once that is determined, we can then figure out the when, with what day of the week and what time. We're still finalizing the roles between student board, student volunteers, faculty, and community PT volunteers. We're developing the intake forms, policy and procedural manuals, and other paperwork that will provide for a successful pro bono clinic. We're identifying the needed supplies and equipment and recruiting faculty and community PTs as volunteers. And there's also work in telehealth certification, and many students are already pursuing that. They're also participating in the Pro Bono Network Conference, which just helps get more ideas on how to run a successful pro bono clinic. And we have a soft start with telehealth in Cancun, Mexico. Cancun, Mexico is a service trip that is an interdisciplinary experience between PT, audiology, and medical lab science students, which has been delayed for COVID the past couple of years, but we're excited to see that there's a soft start with telehealth going to happen this year, and as a good test for what the pro bono clinic would look like in the future if COVID still would restrict our start dates. Where we are going, we're still looking for funding, supplies, and equipment, integrating the clinic into the curriculum, and initiating student board roles. We are super excited that this clinic is getting started as we enter the finalization steps and just figuring out when and where this will happen, but we're really excited that this is getting off the ground. Next slide, please. And we really thank you guys for your time this evening, and we hope to see you guys at the clinic.
Well, thank you, DPT students. I know this has been a long project over a number of years, and I hope to see it come to fruition in the not too distant future. You guys have certainly been after this for a long time, and I'm glad that telehealth has been an option for some folks. So that's taught us a lot this year in terms of how we might be able to deliver services in a little less hands-on way. So our words matter, right, in terms of being able to articulate what it is we want our patients to do, even though we can't put our hands on them and show them like we would like to. So congratulations on this project. And I know the next group is taking it forward, and maybe by this time next year, we'll have a space and be able to actually start to see patients. I hope we don't see any of the people on this call as patients in the clinic, but they might be able to come in as volunteers or observers or something like that. So thank you guys. Our final student presentation is from our School of Social Work. And I don't know if you know this, many of you probably do. Our School of Social Work this year has been intimately involved in our COVID Watch and COVID Check program under the direction of Dr. Michelle Chayette. And we've had a number of our social work students been able to serve in roles of investigators and contact tracers. And so very exciting that the college has had such an integral part in managing this pandemic and what we've dealt with over the past year and what we'll be looking to do as we move back towards a new normal. So the final student presentation is from our School of Social Work, and it's entitled Building the UC COVID Check Response Team. And it's being presented by Susan Autrain. Andrea Mcdonald, Abigail Williams, and Emily Windle. And their advisor is our faculty member in our Masters of Health Administration program, Michelle Chayette.
Hello, we are the UC COVID Check Response Team, and we have the great pleasure of presenting you with our accelerated infrastructure response to COVID-19 on the University of Cincinnati campuses. Next slide, please. In August, under the masterful direction of Dr. Michelle Chayette, the UC COVID Check Response Team was tasked with building an internal infrastructure and app to manage contact tracing and daily monitoring of students, faculty, and staff affected by COVID at the university. Dr. Chayette hired 10 Master of Social Work students for a very non-traditional field placement to help her with this mission. And boy, did we have to hit the ground running. We were facing contact tracing 50 to 60 UC students, staff, and faculty a day who either had COVID-19 or who had been exposed. With 10 contact tracers, we were handling 500 to 600 cases a week. And we were using a platform, Salesforce, that was still in development. This was the epitome of flying a plane while it was being built. Next slide, please. We're so excited to share with you today how we helped to impact the infrastructure that has now grown to, as you can see on this slide, 9 departments, all of which work very intimately in an interdisciplinary fashion throughout the university. This includes working with university health services, housing, the executive office, athletics, to name just a few. The 4 case investigators here today will present a look at only 4 of these 9 departments. And we'd love you to keep in mind that there are 10 other formidable women who run other departments and have contributed equally to the building of this business every step of the way. Next slide, please. We're going to start with the department that I head up, which is education and training. Next slide. So we were faced with a circumstance. As I said, we were getting 50 to 60 cases, and we needed to quickly onboard 4 more case investigators and over 90 contact tracers. And we had to quick to help with this increasing workload. Update the training on Salesforce. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Salesforce, but it's not always the most intuitive platform. So we were building it, and as it was evolving, we needed to get a little bit more comprehensive training on it. We also needed to develop a procedure to contact trace and daily monitor our patients so that we were all doing things in the same manner and that it would be comprehensive. There was also a need for us to learn how to better respond with empathy to our clients that were understandably resistant with the whole process of contact tracing, because they had to face the idea of a 10 to 14 day quarantine or isolation, which wasn't easy for them. The action that was taken was to create a curriculum, which involved training on how to leverage Salesforce and coming up with a step-by-step procedure for both contact tracing and the daily monitoring of our patients. The result: cohesive and comprehensive training, quicker mastery of all, and a streamlined information source. Next slide, please. We then noticed that even after training, there were still a lot of the contact tracers that were not able to keep up on their daily monitoring. So it won't be a surprise to any of us who've been doing so much remote learning that part of the problem was that it was hard for them to remember that these were students or faculty on the other end of all of these phone calls we were making and emails. So we worked a little bit to instill our social worker mindset by training the CTs, the contact tracers, and telling them to please keep in mind that what our goal was not just to check boxes and make phone calls, but it was to be the client's advocate, to walk them successfully through their quarantine or isolation time and to respond to their needs. So what this did, it actually increased their motivation to daily monitor. It increased job satisfaction, and most importantly, better client care. So now we're going to go off to Emily Wendell, who is our operations wizard.
Thank you, Susan. So I'm going to highlight a few of the operation systems we've created, and you can go to the next slide. So when the COVID check response team was first founded in August of last year, we didn't have a robust operations system in place. But as the team grew from 14 to over 100, we saw a need for a systematic approach to managing our team. So using Microsoft Teams, I created a team schedule that allows case investigators and contact tracers to sign up for 3-hour shifts throughout the day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. This system allows us to monitor many different variables. So we're able to track if staff are fulfilling their hour requirements for the project and their various academic programs. And we now have contact tracers working at all times. So we have contact tracers on 12 hours a day on weekdays and 9 hours on the weekends. So what this has done is allowed us to reduce our response time to our patients to under 30 minutes. We're also able to adjust our hours as needed using this system. So I calculate our hours worked and the number of cases that we're seeing on campus weekly. And that allows us to determine if we need to add or reduce time slots for the next weeks. So this ensures that if there are indications of an outbreak occurring or an increase in cases, that we're prepared to address those issues immediately. You can go to the next slide. So another system I created is our case auditing system and our performance management plan. So we found that while we provide a great deal of training and education, as Susan explained, we didn't have a way to track if policies and procedures were being followed ethically and with fidelity. So this is especially difficult with a remote team because we're not always having regular interactions with one another where we can talk about those type of issues. So the audit and performance team now consists of 6 members. They all have specific duties relating to auditing cases, tracking individual and team trends, providing direct support to contact tracers, facilitating retrainings, and then writing individual performance plans to address any issues that come up. Since creating the system, we've seen a reduction in errors made by contact tracers in areas of policies, procedures, and documentation. And many contact tracers report feeling more confident and prepared as patient advocates, which is our #1 job. And now I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Mcdonald, and she's going to talk about our housing partnership.
Thanks, Emily. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So when this process began, I noticed that some inconsistent information was being given to the students in UC housing, just due to the nature of this process being created in such an emergent manner. So I got together with the MSW student on the housing side of this process, Coco Pettiford, and we realized that we weren't on the same page about every aspect of the housing process. So we spoke to our supervisors, Dr. Chiat and Trent Pinto, who then encouraged us to start sharing each of our team's policies and procedures with each other through frequent check-in meetings at least once a week, usually more like once a day, and then report out to our respective teams. This resulted in much more accurate and consistent information being given to the students throughout their entire quarantine and isolation experience. After opening this line of communication, the housing team informed me that it was a bit difficult for them to go into their calls with patients because originally we were using a form to notify the housing team of a potential student move that really only provided them with some basic information about the situation. So this just highlighted the need for the housing team to get into the Salesforce database that the COVID check team was operating out of. This would give them access to the same essential patient information and documentation that we had. So Coco and I reached out to Dr. Chiat about this, who was already working on securing Salesforce licenses for the housing team. Once they were officially added into Salesforce, both teams had a much fuller picture of what was being communicated to the patients through now much more detailed documentation on their case page from both of our teams. With the housing team being added into Salesforce, we are now able to initiate student moves through a feature within Salesforce itself and get rid of that form that I mentioned. This process was a bit more complex than the form, so I was able to simplify it through creating a document with the definitions of the new housing statuses that we were utilizing, a training video on how to conduct moves within Salesforce, as well as a comprehensive algorithm to visually display which status to select for different circumstances. This resulted in easy to follow guidance for the contact tracers and more efficient moves to alternative housing. And next, Abigail Williams will be speaking about policy.
Thank you, Andy. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So my role as the policy coordinator, it was really born out of two needs. So one thing we needed was a more efficient way of communicating what our policies were, because in the beginning they were very unstandardized and we were trying to keep up with public health policies, but they were changing constantly. So part of my role to help coordinate all of that is to read web pages published by CDC, Ohio, UC, and then I would come to Dr. Shayat and the rest of our team with updates of what was changing and suggestions for how we could keep our program aligned with those changes. So we coordinated those efforts with the University Health Services and other departments throughout the university to keep our policies consistent across campus and in line with the latest guidance. So to communicate all of these things that were changing with the teams, I wrote up a number of documents that clearly outlined the policies and then worked with Emily in operations to post them in a central location so that the entire team would be able to access easily. And so people could always go and check and see what's the current guidance for our team. Next slide, please. One of my, did you go to the next slide? Sorry. One of my biggest projects. Are we on the algorithms? Oh, we are. I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay, so one of my biggest projects over the past year has been the creation of algorithms. So algorithms for us are these flowcharts that start with the patient at the top, and then they branch out into different flows that describe possible circumstances that the patient might encounter. And then at the bottom, it has clearly defined outcomes. So the first one I made was to clarify when people would need to quarantine or isolate. So before I put these out, we had a lot of questions and there was a lot of confusion around when people needed to quarantine or isolate. And then as soon as we released the algorithms, we got a lot less questions. So that was really cool because it really showed me that the flowcharts I made were really effective at taking a complex set of policies and making it easy for people to understand. And then when the vaccines rollout started, then we also made another set for the vaccination algorithms to show when those people would have different protocols. So I'm going to pass it back to Susan to close this out.
Okay, you can go ahead to the next slide. So there was some concern about this non-traditional placement that we would actually fulfill our competencies for the NASW, and we did, and then some. So you can go to the next slide. I really want to pause here for a second because here they are, the other 10 formidable women that are on our team that helped not only with our own departments, so none of us did this on our own. So for me to be successful in creating a curriculum, I needed the input of every single person that was working on the team. But as you can see here, this also shows you the other departments that they themselves lead. I just wish we had had time for all of them to tell you the amazing work that they're doing. Next slide. So here we go. These are some of our accomplishments. 28,000 app users. We have closed 15,000 cases. We have done 722,000 health assessments. That's about 1,750 cases per month. We've done over 25,000 hours of contact tracing and case investigation. That's a lot of hours. Our average response time is under 30 minutes now. We're get a case and basically we're on it. We have relocated over 2,000 students to safe quarantine and isolation housing. We're actually going to be showcased by Deloitte and Salesforce in being nominated for Community Champion Award 2021. And here's something that's really awesome is that we're transferable and sustainable. That means that this infrastructure that we have created could also be transferred to other universities and also track other kinds of infectious diseases on college campuses. And here's really the thing I want to bring home. We're the only all-women case investigating team in the nation, and we happen to also be one of the very largest university programs as well in the nation. But most importantly, we have really become, and this has been hard work, as you can see. And as we know, hard work creates strong bonds, and we have become each other's friends, source of support. And in this crazy COVID year, we have celebrated the birth of my granddaughter. Abby here is going to be engaged. Emily is going to be giving birth in 2 weeks, hopefully not tonight. Andy here has moved into her first apartment with my couch that I donated to her. We've welcomed pets and we've had hardships. We've laughed until we cried together, and sometimes we've just cried. So not only did we build a sustainable and transferable infrastructure, we've built a really beautiful community of mutual support, respect, and love. And we all believe that that's why that's really the backbone of this whole project and why it's been as successful as it is. Gosh, you guys, thank you so much for sticking with us to the very end.
Well, thanks to all of you. And this was it is a Herculean effort that you all did against probably all odds. I mean, who would have thought last year at this time or in the month of March that we would be here today talking about the work that you all did so very, very well. And thank you to Dr. Chayette. And I'm just very proud that this is coming out of the College of Allied Health Sciences. I know that Lisa Zimmer was a big part of making sure that the competencies that you all needed to meet were getting checked off in the activities that you were doing. And we couldn't be prouder that you're part of our college and doing this work, this great service for the university. Even though, the COVID interruption has been a challenge, it's been a year of learning. Necessity is the mother of invention, and look where we are. So congratulations. And congratulations to all of the students who shared their projects with us tonight. It's just a little sample of the work that our students are doing and the things that they are learning and the translation of information and research that they're having as part of their program. So very diverse presentations and very, very enjoyable. And tomorrow we have a full day of more of those because tomorrow is our official PRaISE Day. So hopefully people will join us for that as well. I want to thank our Distinguished Alumni 2021 honorees for being with us tonight. You inspire us. I hope you inspire our students. The work that you do in the community is amazing, and we are so proud that you are a Bearcat and a representative and an alumni of our college and our professions. And I also want to mention that this is the launch of Alumni Week at the university. So I want to share that we last year were unable to do the university-wide Distinguished Alumni event because of our COVID situation. This year there's a virtual piece to it as well, and a mural has been created. The distinguished alumni that is representing our college, actually our 2020 winner, who is now being honored in 2021, is Terry Hollenkamp, a speech language pathology graduate of our college and the communication science and disorders department. So I think she's going to be on the mural as well as all the other distinguished alumni for the university from 2020. And I want to thank everybody for coming. This has been recorded. If you have anything in the chat, any kind of questions in the chat, we'll try to get back to you with answers for that. We really appreciate everybody joining us, even though we have to do it virtually this year. It's sure beats not doing it like we were unable to last year. And next year, I hope we can all be together in our beautiful new building, which will be 2 years old, but we haven't gotten to use it very much, and do this PRaISE event in person. So thank you very much for joining us and hope to see you all soon. Join us for PRaISE tomorrow if you're able. Thank you. Good night.